everyone. Welcome to our live. My name is Jessica Ramos. I am the paralegal manager at the Immigration Department at the Gonzalez Law Group. And with me, I have two of our immigration attorneys. I'll go ahead and have them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hy Ford. I'm an immigration attorney here at the Gonzalez Law Group, and I am head of the department. I'm so excited to discuss the Biden Parole program and any questions that you may have.
Hi, I'm Ruben Anthony Nájera. I'm one of the trial immigration attorneys here at Gonzalez Law Group, and welcome.
Ok, bueno, gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Mi nombre es Jessica, soy gerente del Departamento de Inmigración aquí en la oficina de Grupo Legal González. Conmigo están dos abogados de inmigración, es la cabeza del departamento, la abogada Hy Bui, y Rubén Nájera, uno de nuestros abogados.
Hola, mucho gusto.
Hi.
All right, Hy. So what is this new parole policy enacted by President Biden?
It is actually a historical moment in immigration where those who entered illegally can actually get their residency, or also known as their green card, in the United States without leaving. That means that if you entered illegally, you can get your green card without leaving the United States. No waiver, no consular processing, but there are elements that or requirements that you do need to meet, which we'll discuss later on.
Okay.
So, lo que estamos hablando nosotros hoy es de Biden y el programa que está haciendo el Parole. Estamos hablando de personas que unos que entraron ilegal. La primera vez que hay una oportunidad que ustedes que entraron ilegal pueden cualificar para hacer su proceso aquí en los Estados Unidos. No necesitan salir, no necesitan ustedes perdones. So, vamos a hablar de ese programa y qué es lo que van a necesitar para hacer ese programa que entró Biden con el Parole.
All right, well, thank you very much, attorney. So let's go ahead and talk about eligibility. Who's eligible for this new Parole in Place program?
Okay, so eligibility requirements are, first and foremost, you have to have entered illegally. That means that when you crossed into the United States, you didn't have a visa. You were not a tourist, you were not a student, you were not petitioned for by your employer. You must have been categorized as having entered without admission, entered without any legal documents. That's number one.
So, ¿quién puede cualificar? Estamos hablando de personas que entraron ilegal aquí en los Estados Unidos. Si usted entró con visa turista, con usted estudiante, un visa de trabajo o tienen permiso, no pueden cualificar. Este programa solamente son personas que entraron aquí en los Estados Unidos ilegal sin permiso.
Yep. Number two, you need to have been married to a U.S. citizen and currently legally married to a U.S. citizen on or before June 17th, 2024.
También para cualificar, necesitan estar casados con alguien que es ciudadano de los Estados Unidos antes de la fecha del 17 de junio 2024. Estamos hablando que están casados legal con documentos. Hoy también aquí en Texas tenemos el common law, el marriage, donde no se presentan ustedes en corte, pero tienen su documento verificando que ustedes están casados legal aquí en Estados Unidos. El segundo lo que estamos hablando nosotros también.
Okay.
And third, you must have maintained what we call continuous presence for 10 years between the years of 2014 and 2024.
También necesitamos verificar que usted tiene 10 años aquí en los Estados Unidos, comenzando en junio 2014 hasta junio 2024. Ustedes no pueden salir del país, tienen 10 años aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Okay, if you meet those three minimum requirements, you may be eligible to obtain your residency, which is also known as your green card, in the United States. We would love to help you with that process. We also will screen for any criminal records, permanent bars, or any kind of bar to make sure that you maintain eligibility.
So usted tiene esas tres cosas: entrado ilegal en los 10 años, casados con alguien que es ciudadano de los Estados Unidos. Ustedes pueden cualificar por este programa. Lo que vamos a ver con nosotros también, si usted tiene un caso criminal, todavía pueden cualificar por este programa, pero necesita usted hacer una consulta con nosotros para verificar si usted puede seguir con el parole, lo que hizo Biden. Por favor, llame a la oficina de nosotros para hacer una cita, una consulta con sus abogados para verificar si usted puede cualificar por el programa de parole.
All right, so there you have it. If you want more information, schedule a consult here in our office. The first consultation is free. Our number is 832-530-4070.
That's right.
So, Hy, how does this parole policy differ from previous immigration policies?
Good question. So the current parole policy we have in place is only available to those that have military family members. For example, if you have spouses or children in the military, this parole allows you to, again, stay in the United States with an illegal entry. But now it's broader. It just includes those that you don't necessarily have to have a family member in the military. But it really is a reward for you staying here for so long, honoring your commitments, not committing a crime, getting married to a U.S. citizen. It offers a wider audience more opportunities for them to get their residency in the United States.
All right, well, thank you. And how does receiving parole in place affect an individual's immigration status and future applications?
Okay, so once you are approved for the parole, it's a simple application. You apply, you file, and once you get approved, that means that you have a legal entry into the United States without ever having to leave. So that legal entry can affect many outcomes in your life. You can apply for a work permit after the approval of this parole. You can apply for your residency and eventually become a citizen. You can with your work permit, you can work anywhere in the United States legally, file your taxes. You cannot vote, but with the parole, there's many countless things that you can do. And once it's approved, it's always approved.
Got it. So there you go. It's a pathway to get your residency, right? So, Ruben, si podemos nomás repetir en español, ¿cuál es, recibiendo este parol, cómo beneficia el estatus migratorio de los individuales y siguientes aplicaciones de inmigración?
So uno tiene el parole, entonces uno puede pedir un permiso de trabajo. Pueden comenzar trabajando aquí en los Estados Unidos legal con documentos. El segundo es, con este parole, ahora vas a tener usted una entrada legal y con esa evidencia, esa prueba, entonces usted puede cualificar para ser residente de los Estados Unidos, también puede cualificar para ser ciudadano después de eso. So con este parole va a cambiar muchas cosas por usted en su trabajo y también en su vida.
Okay, and in the beginning, we talked about different eligibility requirements. We talked about marriage, talked about proof of presence. What documentation or evidence is required for parole in place?
Okay, well, we'll walk through the elements again. So first, you need to show that you entered illegally. So to do that, it could be something as simple as, you know, a statement, or what CBP and USCIS typically do is they'll run your travel history, and that pretty much sums it up, just to prove that you entered without any legal documents. Number two, to show that you're married to a U.S. citizen. That can be proved up with a marriage certificate, or like Attorney Nahara said, with a common law certificate, which we also supply here through our family department. Please come in for a free immigration or family law consultation to learn more about that. And the last piece, the last element you'll need to meet is to prove that you were here from 2014 to 2024. That is going to be the bulk of your evidence. You need to submit tax records, medical bills, utility bills, car leases, apartment leases, home mortgages, anything to show that you were physically here continuously for 10 years. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. Baptism records, affidavits are now accepted for proof of presence. Yeah.
So I know, for example, what if I don't have anything dating back to like 2014? What if I didn't have any documents under my name? Can I use my children's school records or any other documents?
Absolutely.
Any affidavits?
Yes. You want to first step back and see and ask yourself, what was I doing in that year during that time? Was I, on pickup duty? Did I sign any permission slips for my kids? You want to go back to your child's school and ask for those records where you've signed a permission slip, showed up to, a PTA meeting, things of that nature, yeah.
I mean, think about it. Right now, we're about to start school. So you're all doing that school registration. You have to always supply some sort of utility bill or lease showing where you're living for that school year to show that you're in that school district. You had to do that every single year. So those documents are saved at the school. So if your child is enrolled in school from elementary up to middle school, even daycare, go to the school, go to the daycare facility, ask for those documentations, because that's going to start building up your proof. You had to sign it. You were physically here. If your spouse, if we're talking about your spouse, if they're an emergency contact, they're on that information as well. So school records are going to be a great source because it's dated from year to year. So that'd be a great resource to be able to use for something like this.
And if you're one of those like my dad, he loves taking the flu shot every year. If you have flu shot records, those are very helpful. So just really good record keeping in this process is going to be good. Once you bring in all those documents, we'll be ready to get started.
All right. So, estamos hablando de los documentos que necesitamos recaudar para comprobar nuestra elegibilidad para este programa de Parole. Abogado Rubén, ¿puede usted mencionar uno de los documentos que necesitamos?
Estamos hablando de los documentos que van a verificar que tiene usted los 10 años aquí. Puede ser sus documentos de los biles que tiene en su casa, documentos de la escuela, de la iglesia, puede ser sus documentos médicos. Algo que tiene la fecha señalando que usted estaba aquí en los Estados Unidos. Estamos hablando de la escuela. Cada año usted va a entregar sus documentos verificando que sus niños están aquí en Houston, o en el lugar donde están ustedes. Cada año vas a firmar sus documentos, vas a tener un video, un list señalando dónde están viviendo. Cada año vas a tener eso. Esos son los pruebas que nosotros estamos hablando, que usted puede pedir sus documentos con la escuela para entregarlos con UCIS, con la Oficina de Inmigración, para verificar que usted tiene los 10 años aquí en los Estados Unidos. También estamos hablando que la iglesia, si usted trabaja con la iglesia y está ayudando con la iglesia, usted puede cartas que ellos escriben enseñando que usted se está presentando cada semana aquí en la iglesia. So, hay varias cosas que podemos pedir y eso lo vamos a ayudar a ustedes para pedir esos documentos.
Got it. All right. Well, gracias, abogado. So we're getting some very useful information here, guys. If you have any questions that haven't been answered up to this point, feel free to just type in your question that you have, and the attorneys are here to help. We're here for you. So, hi, is there any type of deadlines or limitations on when individuals can apply for the parole in place under this policy?
Currently, there are no deadlines, but applications are accepted on August 19th, 2024. That gives us a month to collect everyone's documents and file around that date. And I'm emphasizing that we file on that date because there's a lot going on right now politically. Once if there's a change in administration, there could be an injunction, which is a stop to this. So the most pressing thing that you need to do is get this filed before there's an injunction, because once it's filed, it will be processed.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you. Hi, Ruben.
So, lo que estamos hablando para comenzar este programa, para pedir parole, perdón. Uno necesita entrarlo el 19 de agosto de 2024. So, tenemos nosotros un mes para comenzar este proceso. Uno no puede entregar sus documentos antes de esa fecha, lo van a mandar para atrás. No le van a aceptar sus documentos. So, comenzando el 19 de agosto, uno puede pedir ese parole.
Okay.
Yeah. We have paralegals working around the clock. If you are hiring us to take care of this parole, we will take care of it with diligence. So, for example, if you come at 10 a.m. to sign the contract, you can drop off your documents by 3 p.m., come back to review the applications a few days later. Our priority is getting the application filed when August 19th comes, because we have no idea when this law will be stopped. And again, this is a very historic moment in immigration history. This has never been done before. So you want to take advantage of this if you meet the requirements.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go to some of our viewers' questions. First one, what if you have a deportation order? Does that affect?
If you have a deportation order, as of right now, the Federal Registry has not identified whether you can apply for parole under Biden with a deportation order. So my suggestion is apply anyway. And if they start putting limitations on it, your application's already in process.
Okay. So la pregunta era, y que si yo tengo una orden de deportación, ¿eso me afecta?
En este momento nosotros todavía no sabemos. La ley todavía no dice si uno puede cualificar o no puede cualificar. Lo que estamos diciendo nosotros es, si usted tiene su orden, como quiera, vas a entrar sus documentos a ver qué le dice la Oficina de Inmigración. Mejor que uno lo va a entregar y pueden cualificar sin saber. La cosa importante es, comience con el proceso con nosotros. Ahorita en este momento el gobierno no está diciendo si uno puede cualificar o no.
Okay. This one is, the next question is asking, what if the immigrant's son is a retired U.S. Marine and no longer reserved and has completed his time?
Good question. Okay, so if we're strictly talking about the original parole in place, where a family member, part of the military, can apply for a parole in place, if they are honorably discharged, they can still apply for a parole in place. Again, this is separate from the Biden parole in place, where you don't need to be a member of the military.
So, and again, if you are doing the military one, again, these qualifications are going to be different.
Right.
Like I was saying, that
Exactly.
the individual has to have been enrolled in the military, has to be honorably discharged, or has retired from the military. So those will be different, but that is something we can definitely assist with as well.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, guys. So next question. What if I already have my I-130 filed and am currently waiting for my I-601A waiver to be approved? May I still apply for this parole in place?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. This
Yeah.
parole in place here, so what this individual is talking about, if you file your I-130, you have the 601, that is a waiver. That means that you entered here illegally and you're asking essentially asking the government, I know I came in illegally, but give me permission, please, to leave this country, to go to my interview in my home country, and have permission to come back. So what this parole in place is going to alleviate, that's going to make sure that you do not have to leave the country to be able to have this
Yeah.
opportunity, to allow you to stay here. So yes, we would definitely encourage you, still apply. Your case can still go forward. Your waiver can still be processed. It's essentially
right.
you're having two applications with immigration, and at the end of the day, you can decide which one is going to be better for you. Is it better for you to stay in the country with the parole in place, or is it better for you to leave the country and with the waiver that you're going to have? So yes, if you are already in proceedings, you can still apply for the parole in place.
So you're saying keep your I-601A processing?
Absolutely.
And then still, okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Do not give that up. Don't pull it yet. Because again, if something happens with the parole in place, maybe you didn't submit enough documentation, or it's a light application, for whatever it may be. Now you have two ways of adjusting your
Yeah.
status in the future, here or back in your home country. So yes, do not abort that application.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, next question. Is there any hope for a person who was denied residency, but their spouse was granted residency?
So okay, let me make sure I'm understanding. If they're denied residency, spouse granted residency, is there any consequences for them to apply for the parole?
Or if they may be eligible to apply under this parole?
For the spouse that was denied residency, I would have to look at why they were denied residency. Typically, when you're denied your residence, it's related to elements of, a criminal charge or conviction, misrepresentation, bars. I'll need to look at that. But as far as I know, if everything clears, then we can still apply for your parole in place.
And again, going back to the elements, do you meet the elements of the parole
Right.
in place? An illegal entry. Are you married to a U.S. citizen? Have you been here for the 10 years, and can you support that?
Right.
And like you were saying, though, if they're at the adjustment stage, there was something that happened in your past that we would
Yeah.
definitely have to evaluate to see why you were denied or weren't able to go forward to determine what would be the best course of action for you.
Yeah, based on this fact pattern, it seems like they're married to a resident. So right now, if you're married to a resident, you do not qualify.
And that's a good distinction. Again, you have to be married to a U.S. citizen
Right.
by June 17th, 2024. If at the time of your marriage from my understanding, if you married a legal permanent resident and then they became a U.S. citizen before that date, would that qualify or not qualify?
It would not qualify because the requirements are very clear on the USCIS website. You must be married to a U.S. citizen, not a permanent resident about to naturalize, a U.S. citizen on or before June 17th.
Okay, and I think the viewers sent a little bit more info. The reason for the denial was because of an event over 10 years for marriage fraud or residency purposes.
Okay. So we'll have to evaluate that based on fraud and how it fits into parole in place. We're more than happy to do that here at the Gonzalez Law Group. We've done it before, but because this parole program is so new, we cannot tell you right now whether your denial based on fraud would affect your parole in place.
And I want to make sure that we're being clear about so the parole in place is not going to give you your green card.
Right.
It's not going to give you citizenship. All it's going to do is give you a legal entry into the United States so that you can adjust your status and become a legal permanent resident.
Right.
So again, look at the fact pattern here. If we are talking about a marriage fraud situation in your past, that is something we're always going to have to overcome in the future. The
Right.
parole in place is just an opportunity to adjust your status or attempt to adjust your status here in the United States. It does not override everything else that we've done or that has been done, previously in the other case that you have.
Got it, okay. And now it's been all over the news.
Yeah.
We know that Biden has stepped down from presidency for next year. How is Biden stepping down going to affect his parole in place policy?
Well, so Biden stepping down right now currently does not affect it because we know that his vice president is going to maintain the same political agenda that he has. But again, come November 2024, if there is a change in administration and it's not with the Democratic Party, there is a very high chance that the change in administration may stop this new Biden parole program. Similar to what happened with DACA. Now there's an injunction on it. There's no new applications that are being accepted, but current DACA applicants can renew their DACA status without issue. So you want to get in this narrow window of applying as soon as you can. You don't want to miss out on this opportunity.
Okay, so estamos hablando que cómo va a afectar esto que está pasando con Biden, de que él ya no va a correr para presidente para el próximo año. ¿Puedes hablar un poquito de eso, abogado?
So, este programa, sí, estamos diciendo que es Biden, pero es Biden y Harris. Son los dos. So, si Harris gana, los otros pensamos que va a seguir con el mismo programa, no va a cambiar nada. Si es otro presidente que va a ganar, es posible que ellos sí pueden acelerar ese programa, lo que estamos pensando. So, lo que estamos pidiendo nosotros es que usted entre sus documentos el más rápido posible antes que se pase en noviembre. Porque si un cambio en presidente, es posible que sí pueda cambiar ese programa también.
Ok. Y también estamos hablando sobre los historial o criminal en estos casos, que es algo que podría afectar el parole in place. And we're talking about basically our criminal history. Do you have an idea of any type of crimes that could affect our eligibility for the parole in place?
Right.
Si es un cargo que tiene más de un año que usted estaba detenido, te puede afectar. Si es un caso donde hay víctimas del caso, es posible que te pueda afectar. La cosa más importante, un caso es posible que usted todavía pueda descualificar, todavía pueda seguir. Lo que yo digo, trae sus documentos, lo presento a nosotros, déjame verificar qué es su cargo, qué es lo que, el tiempo, si era probation, si era tiempo servido. Quiero verificar el caso por usted, para verificar si usted puede descualificar. En este momento, si hay unos casos que uno todavía puede, si uno tiene un DWI, puedes cualificar. Si usted tiene los tickets, lo estás pagando, puedes cualificar. So, hay varios casos que uno piensa que ya tengo un caso criminal, no puedo seguir. Eso no es la verdad. So, trae sus documentos para verificar si usted puede seguir con ese programa.
It's very case by case. So I'll be honest, here at this firm, we've gotten cases all the way from, just entering the United States to their citizenship with an endangerment of child conviction, multiple DWIs, bars. We were able to overcome that, but again, it's case by case analysis. So I'm not saying that your criminal record disqualifies you, but our team would love to see if there's an existing way for you to use Biden's parole program to get you your residency and eventually naturalize. So don't let a criminal record be the reason why you disqualify yourself from getting residency and eventually citizenship.
All right.
And don't allow yourself to already persuade yourself not to move forward.
Right.
Don't allow your family members to go, oh, you already have a criminal case. Let an attorney tell you if you can or cannot qualify.
Yeah.
And again, I specify an attorney. Let them review your documents to confirm if you can or cannot apply. Our consultations are free. It will cost you nothing but 30 minutes of your time to come in to confirm, do you qualify or not?
Right. From licensed attorneys who have done this for many years, 30 minutes of your time, free consultation, free information, and the best news is that you can do something, and then we can put together a case strategy for you to get there.
Y como están diciendo los abogados, si usted tiene como un historial criminal y quiere saber si todavía califica para esta nueva ley, haga una consulta, la consulta es gratis, venga y traiga su documentación con los abogados para que ellos puedan revisarlos, analizar y verificar si acaso es elegible o no. La consulta es gratis, denos una llamada. Okay. La siguiente pregunta, vamos a hablar sobre cuál es la diferencia de este programa y agarrar la residencia o la ciudadanía basado en el matrimonio. So how is this different than getting citizenship through marriage? Is it easier?
Citizenship through marriage, it's the same thing. If I'm understanding this question, you must be married. The only big difference is that if you're just doing it without the parole, you can be married to a resident and get your residency and then get your citizenship. The parole only allows for you to be married to a U.S. citizen. That's the only difference that I see as of right now, apart from the 10 years. Yeah.
Correct.
And remember, I mean, this also allows people to adjust here in the United States, right?
Yeah.
So whereas
that's the biggest difference. Biggest difference. And I know we talked about this earlier, how we have certain clients that would, not go for the waiver because they don't want to leave the United States. And they've been here 25 years, they're married to a U.S. citizen, but because of their illegal entry, they have to go back to their home country. This client in particular, I think, is from Guatemala. She did not want to go back to Guatemala. So she waited and waited for 25 years. And the moment has finally come for her to stay here and finally get her residency. But again, the window is very small for her to apply. So I would take advantage of it if you're the one waiting and don't want to leave the country.
In addition to what you're talking about here, also, consular processing is what it's called whenever you're going to do your interview in your home country. An added benefit to doing the parole in place is you're able to work, you're able to qualify for work authorization, which means while you're in this process, because it could take a few years to get from this, from the parole in place all the way up to legal permanent resident status and then U.S. citizenship. You're able to work while you're in the United States. If you're doing consular processing, you don't get to work. So you're, everybody else is working around you, you're waiting until you get your appointment. And it takes about 14 months for your family petition to be approved, about 6 weeks before it gets to the National Visa Center, another 2 years minimum for your waiver to be approved, and then maybe a year to year and a half waiting for your country to give you an appointment. So you're looking 5 to 6 years of waiting as opposed to half that time, and you're able to work in the United States. So you still have to be married.
And be with your family.
And not have to, and not the fear of what happens if I do go to my interview, something happens.
Are they going to let me come back?
Let me come back, which is always the biggest fear.
Right.
Can I come back? ¿Puedo regresar para atrás? This is the biggest thing that we're talking about here, so you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Sí. Y hablamos un poco, si nos puedes hablar, elaborar un poco, abogado, hablamos un poco sobre cuál es la diferencia de este programa y de aplicar por mi esposo, que es ciudadano americano o residente.
So, este programa, lo único cosa, lo que va a cambiar es el proceso, dónde va a ser su entrevista. Su entrevista va a estar aquí en los Estados Unidos o afuera en su país. Con el parole in place, entonces el programa se puede hacer, su entrevista va a estar aquí en los Estados Unidos con su pareja. Usted todavía está casado con alguien que es residente o ciudadano, pero si va a ser parole in place, necesita ser alguien que es ciudadano de los Estados Unidos. También, si te dan el parole, entonces también usted tiene un permiso de trabajo que puedes cualificar y usted puede estar trabajando aquí con tu familia. No tienes ese miedo que usted necesita salir del país. Si algo pasa, no me van a dejar dar permiso para regresar para atrás. No tienes ese miedo, porque con el parole in place, el proceso se va a hacer aquí en los Estados Unidos y no en su país.
Right, right. And let's just break down what parole is, because I know we're saying that a lot. Parole is just basically you asking the government, hey, can you classify me as someone that entered legally instead of illegally? That's what the application is. So without leaving the United States, you're asking the government, hey, I qualify for this. I should not have to leave the United States. Please switch my category from an illegal entry to a legal entry in the United States so that I can get my residency. It's basically as simple as that. It's just requesting a status change of your initial or your most recent entry into the United States.
So, la palabra parole, lo que estamos hablando nosotros, es el parole es por una persona que entró ilegal. Cuando uno tiene parole, estamos cambiando su entrada, diciendo que uno ya entró legal. Y cuando uno tiene una entrada legal, entonces pueden cualificar por el permiso de trabajo, pueden comenzar con el proceso aquí en los Estados Unidos. So, si uno pide el parole, es lo que está pasando. Estamos cambiando su entrada aquí en los Estados Unidos.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What if I am currently in removal proceedings? Am I still eligible for the parole in place? Si yo estoy actualmente en procedimientos de corte de inmigración, ¿todavía soy elegible?
So, if you are currently in removal proceedings for a parole in place, we're going to have to close out your case with immigration to be able to submit your application before USCIS to get the parole. One thing that we have been discussing is to use all the documents that we're going to use to show why you qualify for parole in place, to use that as an argument to attempt to close out your case that you can file the application for USCIS. But if my understanding is correctly, if you are actively in removal proceedings, they will not grant you a parole in place.
Well, almost, yes.
Okay.
That's how it works for the other paroles. But however, for this Biden administration parole, there has been no regulation on it yet. So what we're doing is applying for your parole while you're still in removal proceedings, using that receipt to get your case dismissed, and then we'll be able to get your adjustment through USCIS. So yes, you can still apply for the parole in place even while you're in immigration court.
Okay.
which is great news. He was right, but upon further research, there hasn't been anything that clarifies that yes, if you're in removal, you cannot apply.
So, todavía no hay una decisión del gobierno diciendo si uno puede cualificar o no. So, lo que estamos haciendo nosotros es vamos a entregar la petición por usted para pedir parole y usar esos documentos para tratar de cerrar su caso en corte para que usted pueda seguir con el parole. So, pero ahorita no hay un documento, un mensaje o algo del gobierno diciendo que uno no puede cualificar en este momento.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a question asking about how long does the parole in place status last, and is it renewable?
Great
Can
question.
I renew it?
Yes, the parole under the Biden administration is set to last 3 years, and that is USCIS anticipating that you'll become a resident by the end of those 3 years. Again, once you file for your green card, your residency application, even if your parole is expired, you can still the application will still be processed, but a minimum of 3 years is given to you for a parole that's granted under Biden.
Estamos hablando de qué tan largo nos van a dar, si acaso me aprueban, ¿por cuánto tiempo me van a dar el parole?
El parole va a cualificar por 3 años. Okay. Y lo que estamos pensando, en esos 3 años, usted ya puede cualificar para entrar sus documentos y ojalá ya tener su entrevista para ser residente de los Estados Unidos. Pero el parole va a cualificar por 3 años.
Okay. And now, if I am granted for parole in place, may I travel outside of the United States? And are there any restrictions?
No.
You cannot travel outside the United States. The parole only says, hey, now I have a legal entry. Specifically, with this parole in place, you're asking the government that I don't want to leave the United States. I just want to stay here and get legal entry. So no, that's not a travel permit. Do not leave the United States after your parole is granted. You can work, though. You can apply for your work permit after your parole is granted and work anywhere in the United States legally, but you cannot travel outside the United States.
Okay. La pregunta es, si acaso a mí me otorgan este parole, ¿puedo yo viajar fuera de los Estados Unidos? ¿Hay algunas restricciones?
No.
No.
Por favor,
No.
si te dan parole, no es un permiso para salir de los Estados Unidos. Ese parole solamente diciendo que usted quiere hacer su proceso aquí en los Estados Unidos. No es un permiso para salir, no puedes salir con ese documento, no te van a dejar regresar para atrás en los Estados Unidos. So no te puedes salir de los Estados Unidos con un parole.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. I petitioned for my husband and our petition was approved. We
Good.
also filed the waiver. Waiver was approved, and we are currently waiting to be scheduled for a consular interview. Should I withdraw this case and proceed with the parole in place law, or continue with our consular interview?
I would say continue with your active case, but also apply for parole in place. You can't have both petitions going at the exact same time. At that point, you now are creating options for yourself. If you are granted parole in place, there are forms you can submit to have in the National Visa Center. Send your case back to the city where you reside so you can have your interview here in the United States. Or if the interview comes first and you say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and cross the border with the waiver, as long as you have a waiver. If you're required to have your waiver in hand, go have your interview, get your case approved, get your visa, come back in. But it's a choice that you have at that time. But you can have both cases actively going at the exact same time.
Right.
One will not affect the other.
Right. The most important thing is, if you do decide to go with the parole option, maintain contact with the NVC so your family petition is still active. That's the spousal petition that you filed that was approved. If it's at the NVC and you don't contact the NVC once a year, then it might be deemed abandoned. So even though you decide to stay in the United States and apply for the parole, keep contact with the NVC once a month. I would say twice a year, just to make sure that I-130 is active. Because once it's abandoned and deemed to go through final termination, you're going to have to start all over. Yeah, so just be careful about that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what support or resources are available to help applicants navigate the parole in place application process?
The Gonzalez Law Group.
So give us a call.
That's it.
Give us a call. We have everything you could need. We're up to date on all the regulations, all the USCIS memos. But most importantly, we have experienced attorneys that can answer all of your questions. So the most important resource that you can have It's not YouTube, it's not TikTok, it's not Facebook. It is meeting face to face with an immigration attorney who has been through this and is actively updating their reservoir of knowledge of this parole process. So get connected with one of us on social media, or set up a free consultation with us. We're more than happy to talk to you.
Got it. So, attorneys, what about our DACA recipients? People who have DACA but did have that illegal entry or illegal entry. Are they eligible for this parole in place?
Yes. And again, we're going back to the elements. As long as that person who got DACA came in illegally and they're married to a U.S. citizen before June 17th, 2024, they've been here for the past 10 years without leaving, then yes, they're still going to be able to qualify for the parole in place. The issue is we do have some DACA recipients who came in with the B1, B2, and then they got DACA. Those individuals will not be able to qualify for parole in place because, again, this parole is specifically designed or has been set in place for those who came in illegally and are married to a U.S. citizen.
Right. And if you came in illegally, that's fine. If you have DACA and you applied for advanced parole, left, and came back, you are no longer eligible for this parole program because now you technically have a legal entry. So that's something to always keep in mind.
In addition to, because again, that's what we're saying, this parole in place is giving you the legal entry. When you had the advanced parole, yes, you had to leave, you had to come back, and now they gave you a stamp, and now you have your legal entry. This parole in place is doing that without having to leave the country.
Right.
So now you're at the exact same phase that you would have been already. So it's almost like you already have your parole, essentially. So have your partner start the process for you. Contact us so we can help with adjusting your status. You're already at that next level. But you don't have to wait for the parole. You're already at that level.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. And what are the responsibilities of somebody who was granted parole in status? Like, is there anything that can maybe affect their status? If any crimes, anything?
You said it. Any criminal record, any leaving the country could prevent you from getting your residency. Once you get paroled in or get a granted parole, just make sure that you are maintaining what we call good moral character. Do not commit any criminal. Do not have or what am I trying to say?
I think your criminal history or having a crime is one that can affect your parole in place and your future, attempts to become a legal permanent resident. Like we've been saying, this parole in place, all it's doing is changing your illegal entry into a legal entry and now giving you a pathway to adjust your status here in the country. So having good moral character, being, not having cases, paying child support, things of that nature, these are all things that you want to make sure you're still doing so that whenever you are going to apply to become a legal permanent resident, it's not going to affect you. It's not going to hinder you in any way. So yes, again, this parole in place is not a magic wand that's going to change, your entire path. All it's doing is just changing the way you entered into the United States and giving you a legal entry to be able to adjust your status here in the United States.
I know what I was going to say.
Please.
Sorry.
I wasn't trying to mansplain anything.
It's not. No, of course not. It's not the end all be all, like you said, protection. It can be taken away and it can affect your renewal process of the parole, but most importantly, it can affect your residency and citizenship process. If you commit any crimes or leave the country, be subject to any bars. So if you have been granted parole, just maintain what you were doing this entire time for the past 10 years and you should be good to go.
Okay. Abogado, si puede nomás repetir un poco en español sobre lo que estamos hablando.
Estamos hablando, si uno tiene parole, ¿qué es lo que va a cambiar por usted? ¿Cómo le va a afectar a uno que hay que hacer desde los Estados Unidos? Lo que estamos haciendo nosotros es, parole solamente, la única cosa va a hacer es cambiar su estatus, verificando cómo entraste usted en los Estados Unidos. Uno entró ilegal. Con el parole, entonces, van a cambiar diciendo una entrada legal, entonces. Uno si tiene muchos casos criminales, siempre va a afectar un caso. Si uno va a salir del país, eso también te va a afectar. Este programa solamente va a cambiar una cosa y diciendo que usted entró, ahora tiene usted un permiso, una entrada legal y eso es todo. Sigue usted haciendo la misma cosa, pagan sus taxes, trabajando, quedan con su familia, no tienen ustedes más casos criminales, porque todo eso sí te va a afectar en el futuro cuando uno va a comenzar el proceso para ser residente o en el futuro ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
Okay. Next question on here. Can you help someone that is part of the LGBT community get his parole in place?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. There are no discrimination in this process. If you belong to the LGBTQ plus community, if you belong to any community, please come on in if you meet these requirements so we can get your case started as soon as possible. Again, the filing deadline is August 19th. We are less than 30 days away. We're currently collecting a lot of information from clients that qualify, and we would love to have you as one of our clients. So please, 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 as soon as you hear about this, watch this, share it, and come on in, because we are working with a deadline here. USCIS will accept applications August 19th.
Okay, and we have time just for a few more questions. One of them, abogado, yo tengo hijos, ¿puedo incluirlos en mi aplicación? Attorney, I have kids, may I include them in my application?
So there has been a discussion about this. So if your parole in place is approved, the children can be included in that process. So si usted tiene niños, si usted puede cualificar por este programa, si usted está casado otra vez con un ciudadano, entonces también pueden poner los niños en el mismo petición con ustedes. So sí, los niños sí pueden afectar también y pueden seguir con el mismo caso con ustedes. So yes, you can include your children. I would have to double check to confirm in what process. It's either at the inception or post-conclusion, whenever you've been granted it, when you include your children. But yes, children can, they have specifically stated, children and stepchildren can be included in this process.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and last question for today. I know we're short on time. We're running out of time. It's almost 1 o'clock. But can this application close anytime?
Yes. This application can close the day after it opened, 2 weeks after it opened. That's why it's so important that we're stressing file before it closes. Because once it's filed, it's still going to be processed. Once it's filed and you don't have enough evidence and they send you a request for more evidence, we can reply and it'll still be processed. You just have to get it postmarked before the end of the applications have been accepted. So please get that in. Remember, DACA happened. No one, everyone took that seriously. Everyone had their DACA applications ready to be filed before the injunction. And a lot of people now are currently on DACA because of that. So I encourage you to take the same initiative and file for your parents, your uncles, your aunts, your sisters. File for anyone that you know qualify.
All right, so you know the date, August 19. Mark your calendars. Make sure you're ready to get those applications filed. Really quick, attorneys, can you please go over the requirements just one more time before we leave? So everybody, if you didn't get a chance to write them down, grab a pen and a paper and let's go.
So the first one's going to be you have to have an illegal entry into the United States.
The second, you must be married to a U.S. citizen, legally still married to a U.S. citizen on or before June 17th, 2024, and common law marriages do count.
And we also have to show 10 years of presence, physical presence here in the United States, starting from June 17th, 2014, up until June 17th, 2024.
That's right. And if you meet those 3 requirements, start gathering your documents and come to the Gonzalez Law Group.
And if you do have a criminal case pending against you or a conviction, that does not mean that you're disqualified. You can still qualify, so still reach out to us.
Right.
Okay, vamos a repetir un poquito en español. Tenemos tiempo todavía para eso.
So, para cualificar, otra vez, uno necesita tener una entrada ilegal aquí en los Estados Unidos. Casado con un ciudadano de los Estados Unidos antes de la fecha del 17 de junio 2024. También los casos de los matrimonios de common law también pueden cualificar antes de esa fecha. Y necesitamos verificar que usted tiene 10 años aquí en los Estados Unidos, comenzando el 17 de junio 2014 hasta el 17 de junio 2024. Y también estaba diciendo, si usted tiene un caso criminal, es posible que usted todavía pueda cualificar. So, por favor, llame a la oficina de nosotros, haga su consulta con nosotros para verificar si usted puede cualificar.
Alrighty, guys, that was very useful information. Thank you, attorneys, for your
Thank
time.
you, Jessica.
I know that you have a very busy schedule, guys. If you have any other questions, if you're ready to file, give us a call, 832-530-4070. Check out our website at the Gonzalez Law Group, our social media. If you have any other questions, check us out. Thank you guys for being here. Todos gracias por venir. Cualquier otra pregunta, denos una llamada al 832-530-4070. Vaya y visite nuestra página de internet en gonzaleslawgroup.net. O si no, llamen a la oficina, hagan una cita para hablar con uno de nuestros abogados. Gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy y nos vemos a la próxima.
Thank
you
you
guys for joining us. We'll
Adiós.
see you next time.
See you next time.